Start off a little bit by what is like your worst nightmare scenario in private money lending? Like, could you share a story that maybe not happened to you, but that you've heard of maybe? Or if it happened to you, I don't know if you'd be willing to share. Start us off
No,
there.
I have a story. No, I have a story. Um, honestly, the PML world has really changed my life, if I'm gonna be
Hola, hola. ¿Qué tal, mi gente? Aquí de nuevo. Wow, otro día maravilloso, un lunes. Gracias, Brenda, por estar conmigo y tomar un poquito de tu tiempo aquí charlar conmigo sobre prestamistas privados. Well, thank you, Brenda, for taking time out of your day, out of your business, out of your family to, have a conversation with me about private money lending.
No,
Um,
I appreciate the invite, honestly.
yeah, I know we've been trying to set this up for a bit. We had a few conflict schedules bouncing from one thing to another, but
Mhm.
it all falls in place, and now we're here. So thanks again.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Thanks for the invitation, Edgar.
Yeah, so I wanted to, one thing that I recently pivoted into pretty strong is the arena of private money lending in the real estate investing space, right? Because there's so many ways people can make money in real estate investing, from
Mhm.
wholesaling, fix and flipping, and also working capital, right? Working money, putting money to work. And we chatted a little bit out at Owners Club, right, about some PML opportunities that I've come across, and even on another lending transactions. I know you're doing a few EMD transactions as well. But we'll start off a little bit by what is like your worst nightmare scenario in private money lending? Like, could you share a story that maybe not happened to you, but that you've heard of maybe? Or if it happened to you, I don't know if you'd be willing to share. Start us off
No, I
there.
no, I have a story. No, I have a story. Um, honestly, the PML world has really changed my life, if I'm gonna be honest. I mean, even regardless, like, I can see now why people say, "Oh, we lose, XYZ," but to get towards, like, the bigger goal, it's
Mm,
totally worth it, right? Or I feel like just because you had that incident doesn't like, it there's always there's always an upside to a downside. And if we choose to look at it that way, I believe it's really true. And so
mm,
whether or not the things that I've learned even in the short time of being in PML and doing EMDs, is actually really taught me a lot and how to narrow down my expectations as to what I really look for, not just be
mm,
excited about every single deal that comes to me. And so, I mean, I can share I've had way more success than I've had failures, but definitely have learned a lot in the space since September. And so one of the deals I had was brought to me by someone in the community, and it was a deal that, you know, seemed pretty reasonable. They wanted it for 90 days. They needed 19,000, and the return on investment was going to be 4,000. And so I brought that deal. I was able to speak to the borrower, speak to the connector, and I felt okay with it, and had someone underwrite it and be able to look at it and say, like, okay, like, it's fine. it,
mm.
it passes the underwriting phase. What I didn't realize is that this borrower turned out being a scammer for a lot of people.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, it was for several people, and unfortunately, like, they're still dealing with that, trying to recover their money. And so, for me, it was a shock because when my payout date came due, I actually got paid.
Mm,
And so, I was like, "Huh, like, how does she pay me and not pay other people?" Right? So, I mean, I don't know if it had to do with even the ins and out of because my property was refinanced or their property wasn't able to sell. Whatever it was, like, I was grateful that I got paid, but at the same time, I know people and I'm close with that haven't been paid and are still currently dealing with the whole mess. So definitely it's not what I've looked into now. It's like not more of, have you dealt with this borrower?
Mm,
Has this person been able to not just repay you, but it's more of a, is it a deal? And is the underwriting well enough to where you can recover all of your funds if you need to foreclose on a property? And that's
mm,
really what it comes down to. It doesn't matter if they with their past experience, they've paid people, although that can be a plus, but in a sense, like, it could be also a pyramid scheme.
sure.
And so, you know what I mean? So, at the end of the day, I think just being able to learn from that lesson and being able to say, okay, like, if the deal passes underwriting, did I vet this borrower? Did this borrower have an LLC? How's their credit score? How's their background check? How all of those is, have they filed for bankruptcy in the past? Things that I never thought to really look for when I first started into PML, and then now it's like, I just continuously add things to the list where I'm just like, okay, before my next deal, like, this is what I'll look for, and so on and so forth. So that was definitely, like, to me, I was shocked for like a day because I'm like, oh wow, like, it could have
Mm,
easily happened to me, right?
yeah,
Um, but thankfully it didn't. But again, I know people that are still trying to, close that out, and I actually updated with them just to see, like, how's it going, and I think they'll be able to take some of their properties over, which is not a bad thing, but at the same time, like, it goes into now, like,
sure.
now possibly, do they turn into a fix and flip? Do they turn into a
Right.
long-term rental? And so on and so
Well,
forth.
some of the important things right out of that story you just shared is how much you learned out of it, right? As far as what proper due diligence needs to happen prior to lending now, right? Because if everything would have gone according to plan and nothing would have happened, you would have been like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
No, definitely, yeah. Yeah, no, if I didn't know that, she she was a borrower for other people that I knew, then I would have thought, like, great, like, maybe I'll do another deal with her. You
Right.
know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it was kind of like that, like, I was, like, shocked for a day, and I was like, "Dang," like, it set a reality in of to make sure that my expectations before I do a PML to really, um, make sure that both the borrower and the deal is vetted.
Yeah. And that's a awesome thing about lending business, right? Because it is a business, right? It's part of the real estate investing business model that you have to treat it as a business, right? That you
Mhm,
have to have certain processes in place, like what you shared. The underwriting
mhm,
has to happen, right? The
mhm.
vetting the borrower has to happen, right? And then what if the worst case scenario happens, right? All of these things have to be taken into account. And it's
Yeah.
something that we learn, right, as we're going through this journey of understanding more and more and more. So thanks for sharing that story. But let's pivot into, why did you decide to become a PML though? Like, what got you into the PML sector in the space? Um,
I honestly, I have to give it up to the Instagram algorithm. Believe it or not, I purchased a property I purchased a property last April, and after I purchased that property, like, Instagram just started sending me real estate, um,
hmm,
ads. It was so strange, honestly, and I landed into Bigger Pockets, and from Bigger Pockets, I downloaded their podcast and just started listening to it. Well, they have this one podcast, I know they have 4 podcasts, but they have this one
hmm,
podcast that shows, like, basically how people get to financial freedom,
hmm,
and so I started listening to that podcast, and I'm like, "Wow, I think I could do something like this, like, I
hmm,
am capable of doing something like this." And that kinda opened the mindset shift of going from, "Okay, it's okay to, like, also do something on the side if I choose to, and not just have to stick to a 9 to 5." And that
hmm,
kinda opened up more to me seeing, Pace Morby on Bigger Pockets being featured. At the time, he had just released his book, so they
hmm,
were featuring him quite often. So when I saw his ad, I was like, "Oh, I have a few funds. I can possibly do this." And
hmm,
I told myself, "You know what? I've wasted more money in the past on things like clothes or shoes or anything retail therapy, right? So I'm like, why not
Right.
just spend the money on education and training? And the worst case scenario is that I learn something new or I don't. But at least, at least I will never know unless I actually take the risk. And that's kind of
Uh,
how that
Powerful there.
unfolded in me being a PML. Yeah.
Nah. But so you said you have a investment property already prior to doing bigger pockets, or was that once you? I guess you bought the investment
Once I
property first.
close. Yeah. So it's like once I closed in April, like all of a sudden that whole month I started receiving like, and another thing too, like my the lender for my mortgage, he also told me too, I originally wanted to just pay for half my house in cash. I was thinking more of like the Dave Ramsey method, right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like paying it off and just having, and my my lender for my mortgage was like, "You know what, Brenda? It's always nice to just have liquid. And whether or not you choose to use it, yes, of course you can pay off your house, but you have it, so you can pay it off at any time. You don't have to pay it off now.
Mm,
Just wait," he said. "Just wait, keep it liquid, and see if an opportunity arises." And that kinda led me thinking into, "Okay, fine, like, I'll just hold on to it and not pay it off." And I'm super grateful that he told me that because I probably would have gone into the route of just paying half of it cash and being able to like, okay. But now, like I've used it for PML and continuously use it for it, just recycle it.
that is amazing. That's
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool how sometimes people tell us advice and we actually take it, whereas sometimes we're not at the right state of mind and we hear something, it's like, oh yeah, maybe, or I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I feel like that opened my eyes to it. But imagine, right? Imagine if I actually would have used my funds for that house. And then I see the ad from Pace. And then I'm like, I don't have any funds.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna join it. I'm not gonna join that mentorship. So I feel like it was almost like it was aligning towards it. Like it was meant
Yeah,
to be, honestly.
alignment.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
definitely.
So, you got your first rental, right? And then you had liquid cash. What, but I'm still wondering what caused that bug inside you to say, you know what, I got liquid cash. I'm starting to learn about creative ways of acquiring property. Let me just start piling up on investment properties. Is that probably a goal down the road, or is that happening, or where are you at on that in that journey?
It was never a goal, never.
Mm,
I think the more I started hanging around with the same like-minded people in real estate, I was like, "Whoa, there's so many avenues."
right.
I was like I was like, "Oh my gosh." I was like, I had no idea that this even existed. It was like a whole new world to me.
Mm,
All I knew was healthcare, like, that's all I've known since I was, like, 20, right? And so, to me, it was just, like, the traditional way in my mind was you purchase a house, you pay it off, and you move on with your life. There was nothing
mm,
there that I was like, "Oh, one day I'm gonna acquire 10 properties," or "I'm gonna have 15 Airbnbs," or, like, that wasn't something
yeah.
that even came to my mind. I went to an event last year, which is HostCon. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it was Rob from Bigger Pockets, and everyone in that space either probably, like, more than majority had a few Airbnbs already in that space, and then there was, like, the new people that want to get started in that space, and they just don't know how, and so they come to that event. And that event really opened my mind into, "You know what? I think one day I actually wanna have several properties where I can Airbnb them or midterm rental them
Mm,
and block a week or 2 off in the calendar while other people pay for it." And why not have it at the states that I would visit? So I will love a
exactly.
house in Florida in the beach. I will love a house in Colorado because I enjoy hiking. Like I want to have nature. I will love San Diego just because who doesn't like San Diego? Like, it's the perfect weather, right? And so just like different things like that, I'm like, I could that's something that's a goal to definitely look forward to.
Mm,
And it'd just be nice to be able to take my family, block out a couple of weeks, and be able to just, you know, at whatever time I want to do it, just do it. But it's also
yeah,
being paid. So I looked at it
exactly.
that way. I'm like, okay, that's definitely a go I'm going towards. And after that HostCon event, maybe what January opportunity presented to me where again it's all in alignment. Like I feel the aligning just continue. Like I feel like God just aligned every person that was
Mm,
placed there. And my friend purchased a property in Houston and she wanted to lease it long-term rental. And so I was helping her just reposting it for her. Like, hey, if anyone lives in Houston, wants to, lease this property. And then I had a friend reach out to me and he says, why don't you arbitrage it? And I said, what?
what do you
Why?
mean?
Yeah. I was like, wait, what do you mean? Yeah, exactly. Right. What do you mean? And he was just like, Airbnb arbitrage it. And then I said, oh, I was like, I don't know. I don't really know anything about that. But like the
Hmm.
moment he goes, so then he tells me, so then learn. And then that like just bing. I was like, he's absolutely right. Let me research this. So I think about it, I ponder about it that day. It turns out I actually had met someone in October that co-host. He has an actual business doing Airbnbs and he has 50 of them
Wow.
and he manages them. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, I remember when I met you, you said this is what you do. And he says, yeah. He goes, do you have a property that you want to get started on or what? And then I was like, yeah. I was like, he goes, send me the address. I'll let you know if it's a good property. I said, okay. I sent it to him. And the next day he's like, yep, it's good. And I was like, really? And he was just like, yeah. And I was just like, okay. Like, he's like, yeah, let me know. Like, my team would, you know, they can manage it for you. And I said, they can. And so it was just like every little step, I'm like, really? Like, okay, like, why don't most people do this, right? And so we ended up chatting, and he kind of went over what his team does and how they manage it. They list it and they take care of it. They take care of all the messages, everything around that or whatever. And so, yeah, it went live February, which then that led me to finding an interior designer. So then I met an amazing interior designer. And it was kind of nice to meet her because what she does in the space, she's a fix and flip queen. And
Huh.
she was part of like Grant Cardone's contest, which was pretty amazing.
Wow.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I was just like, wow, like that's really cool just to meet people. She's from California. And she came and she pretty much, we signed contract. She came that following week. And within 2 days, like she had everything set up. All I did was leave work, go to the house, and I was able to see the house and I was like, "Wow, this looks amazing." And we went live the
Wow.
next day and yeah, and we went live 2 days later and it's been booking ever since. So, it was a definitely truly like a blessing just how everything just turned out. I didn't think I was capable of doing something like that and now I'm like, "No, now I want more Airbnbs." Like that's my goal now. I would like some more
Awesome.
Airbnbs, but I do PML, and now I've shifted a little bit more on the EMD side, just because I would like to build more capital and be able to buy some more property.
Yeah, no, I love that because that's where I was getting into right now. It's like, the progression, right? From being able to get your first rental, right? And then the power of networking and meeting so many
Yes.
different people, right? And then at one point you were like, oh my God, I know this person. He's going to help me. And you've done a few PMLs. And then recently you started doing some EMD transactional
EMDs.
lending. So
Yeah, I've done
tell us a little bit
3.
about transactional lending because there's different types, right? So just for the people that may not know what transactional lending is, if you could just give a little intro background on what type of transaction that is in the lending space.
Yeah, so basically, it's EMD, which just stands for Earnest Money Deposit, And you can either, I actually met people that do in buyer side and they actually do the wholesaler side. So essentially you want to do the wholesaler side because it's safer. And by that meaning safer is that your money will stay in escrow, and you you were actually able to get a refund out of it, right? If something falls through, or if the deal doesn't work out or it doesn't get sold, then you're able to be refunded back with your money and you don't lose any of that money. Now there's the other side where you can also fund EMDs for an in buyer. And so with the in buyer, your money is non-refundable. And so you have to come in an
Mm,
agreement whether or not, depending on your risk tolerance, do you trust this person? Will you have these contracts in place with this person? And once you have those contracts in place and you have some kind of collateral that's actually worth the amount that you're actually putting into title for their deal, then
mm,
it's up to you. But a lot of things to think about when doing something like that is, do you want to take over an asset that's a property for someone? Say you put in into the deal 10,000. You know, you got to make sure that they have equity in that asset. It's not just taking over any asset, right? They can give you a property, and if they don't
right.
have equity, it's basically it's pointless almost, right? So I've been transitioning more into that just because, the hold amount time is max 30 days, depending 2 weeks, 1 week, 3 weeks. And so I've been kind of shifting into that space. The problem I'm running into is having wholesalers that actually don't deposit that amount.
Mm,
Um, and so it's just kind of doing like that outreach, which I'm not really a fan because I feel like half of my deals have been through in person networking,
hmm.
which I didn't know, but I actually enjoy doing that. I actually enjoy just getting to know people and just seeing how their journey is unfolding in the real estate space. So, I mean, that's how I met you. I went
Yeah,
to,
absolutely.
I went to a master class for PML, and I saw your name on the screen and I was just like, Instagram, like automatically looking him up. And I sent you a message and I
Yeah,
said, "Hey, like, let's connect. I love what you're doing." And, Alexis had you on the big screen. So I was just like, I'm going to reach out to him. So again, I can't emphasize enough like the power of networking. And we would have never connected had, me not seeing you on that screen and you're responding. You're like, yeah. And then it turns out you're part of Owners Club. So I got to
yeah,
get to
we
know
met
you
up at
even
Owners
more
Club.
last month. Yeah, back in June. So it's been nice. It's been a really nice ride just being able to meet genuine people that have their own journey in real estate and what they're doing, and have the abundance mindset that there's room
Absolutely.
not just for me, not just for you, but for every one of us. I mean, there's
Yeah,
8 billion
that's
people on
true.
this planet. Like the deals, that's why I always say, like, when you're a newbie, you think like, oh my gosh, someone's gonna snag my deal. And it's like, no, no, no,
Yeah,
no.
even if it
Like,
happens, there's so much more, out there.
even
It's
if it
like I
happens,
remember,
there'll be another
yeah,
one tomorrow. Yeah,
absolutely. I remember when
yeah.
I
So
was,
that's why I feel like,
go ahead.
no, no, no. I was just gonna say that's just what I tell, like, when I meet new people in the community, I'm like, there's enough for everyone. There's more than enough,
Yeah,
actually. Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, you covered EMD, right? And there's some intricacies behind EMD, earnest money deposit, right? You mentioned an inspection period, right? Because
Yeah.
you don't want your money to go hard, right? In those type of
That's
situations.
correct.
So the time can differ, right? It could be 30 days, it could be, whatever that is, but that is one of the things where you have to ensure that your money does not go hard, because if it goes hard, that means you lose your money.
That is correct. You have to make
Question.
sure that who you're doing it with, communication is definitely key. Every single title company is different, and some know what they're doing and some
Mm,
don't. And that's just the reality of it. And so you have to make sure that all parties are communicating and you get a clear understanding, that they have a clear understanding of what is expected of your money to be safe.
yeah, because you just mentioned it. Title companies. There's so many different processes that they may have in place, and is it your responsibility to communicate to the title company to ensure that they're doing everything right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah, if you want your money
Yeah,
back, it is definitely your responsibility.
yeah,
Ideally, it probably shouldn't be. I mean, I feel like if everyone plays their role and they play it correctly, they should be considerate of your funds. But unfortunately, you have to
unfortunately,
take
yeah.
responsibility. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's
definitely.
not you wired the money, you're like, "Okay, here, I'm gonna make great returns." Nope. You
Yeah.
gotta stay
They
on
get like
top
a
of
million
the whole process.
transactions a day. Yeah. And you're just one of the transactions that, they add to the file.
Yeah. The other type of transactional lending that we didn't that comes around in our business is the double close transaction.
Yeah.
Um, have you had an experience of being a part of any of those type of transactions yet?
I had one that I thought was, like, possible. I've been building a relationship with a wholesaler, and he was like, "Hey, I may have one." And I was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Wow, that was easy." And so but no. Yeah. And so, he said it was gonna be, like, 60,000, and I've never done one, and it's on my goal list to actually do one before the year is over, so definitely
Mm,
would like to do one. So I said, "Yeah, let me know. Let me know the details." But it turned out that, the guy that he was possibly selling it to, he actually didn't. He was able to cover it. So,
mm.
but initially I was like, "Whoa, this could be it. Like this is my time. This is my opportunity." So yeah. So no, I haven't had a double close yet, but I'm sure eventually I will. I mean,
Yeah.
there's gonna
So
some
if you could give a little bit of intro on what double close is. I know at the beginning, when we were talking about EMD, you said A to B contract and then B to C contract, right? There's that plays more into role when you're doing double close, right? So maybe you could give
yeah.
us a little bit of info on what double close is.
Yeah, sure. Like, so from what I've learned about is that you have to have an A to B and a B to C contract. And if neither one of those are in place, like you never send or wire money to title. And so they have to show proof of that before you wire any of that. Because essentially your wire is never supposed to even go out of escrow. And
Hmm.
so once they close out on the A to B transaction, and then the B2C closes, then they return your funds back. And so you charge depending on the amount. I've spoken to several people that double close, and they usually use between 1% and 1.5. But if it's something that's over like half a million over, they use a pretty nice percentage. And I'm like, wow, like they made that in 2 hours. That's amazing. So
Yeah.
it just depends, right? It's on how you structure the deal, and if they're willing to do that deal, then it can happen. So definitely,
And
that would be
many,
really nice to just
yeah, those are nice transactions. And the reason many wholesalers use those type of transactions, one of the reasons, right, is to kind of hide their assignment fee from right from
yeah
the
from
homeowner
the
or
yes. Mhm.
yeah. So that's
I
kind of
thought that
one way.
we
Not
yeah, essentially they're like, "You're making how much
right.
for yeah, which
But
is
that
crazy
gives
because
us an opportunity.
no, absolutely. I just feel like if a wholesaler, I always look at it like, okay, you're gonna make a fee, sure, whatever, as long as my price doesn't change, right?
Mm,
So, but
yeah, but some people would be out there. What, you're making that much? No, no, no. Let me change that price. Wait a minute. Give me an
that's true.
additional 20.
Give me an additional 20, leave you with 2K, right? 2K for this transaction. Yeah, no, definitely. So we'll
I
add it on
love.
our list.
I know. Well, I still need. I haven't done an EMD lending yet. You beat me to that. And but yeah, we'll aim for EMD and double close by the end of the year. We'll see.
Yes, absolutely. You know what? You should write it down though.
Mm,
The power of writing down your goals. I wrote it down back in June.
in
And I
June.
said,
Shoosh.
close on an EMD before the summer is over. And
And
I
did
did.
you repeat it every time, or was it just more like an affirmation? You
No,
wrote it
it
down
was
and affirm.
I wrote it down and just let it go, honestly.
Love that. That's
Yeah.
good. Well, I know you're definitely disciplined. That's one thing I constantly need to improve on myself better. But it's
Oh, I'm disciplined, but I'm not. I mean, I feel like, over the years I've gotten better. There's still days that I wake up and I'm like, to go or not to go to the gym. Like, there's still I still have those moments. For the most part, it does get easier over time for me, in my experience. It does
Mhm.
get easier over time. But sometimes in the winter, you're cozy in your bed and I'm just like, man, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, do I want to go to the gym right now? It's gonna be cold. I gotta put my jacket on. I mean, things like that, right? So it
Yeah,
but again, the majority of part, I just get up and go. It's like clockwork. Like,
yeah.
come on, you
You
know what
don't
time
give
it is.
your mind you don't give your mind time to think about it. You're like, nope.
That's
All
correct.
right.
Because
Yeah,
if you do, you'll lose.
yeah. As soon as you start thinking
Yeah.
about it, you lose.
As soon as you start thinking about it, you'll lose. It's like 1, 2, 3, make your mind get up now. Yeah, yeah.
I love
I
that.
struggled with that for so many years. That's why I tried doing it myself. I tried going to a 5:30 class and I just couldn't. And really, I feel like it's God's strength. Like, I had a fasting a few years back and I asked God that year, just give me strength to be more disciplined. That
Mm,
was my prayer. And how everything aligned at that time, I was only going to the gym on my days off. And because I worked 12 hours, I wasn't able to go to the gym before work because my gym opened at 6 a.m. and I
mm,
actually have to be at work by 6:45. But the moment that fast ended, my gym, I had a coworker that reached out to me and said, "You should come to my gym. Like, they have a franchise near your house. It's actually closer." And I was like, "Really?" And I never even bothered to look. And I went and tried out her gym, which is an F45. And I went in there and I was like, "You guys have a 4:30 a.m. class? Like, who comes to this?" And so they're like, "Yeah, we've had it, since we've been open, and it actually people are pretty consistent." So I was like, "Okay, I think I could come to the gym at 4:30. Let me see. Go home, take a shower, get ready for work. I can leave the house by what, 6:10, 6:15. Should get to work by 6:40." I was like, "Wow, I feel like that would actually work." So I just started coming, and it's going on what, 2.5, it's already 2.5 years doing that.
wow,
So,
congrats.
yeah.
That's awesome.
So Monday through
So,
Thursday for the most part, like, it's a 4:30. It's a 4:30
so I'm
class.
curious, what time is your bedtime?
My bedtime's 8:45 because I feel like
Yeah.
sleep is so important. I know people have their parents, it's hard, right? Their kids don't even wanna go to bed at that time, but I don't have kids, so I don't have to worry about that.
It's like,
Um,
cabrones, go to bed. Let's go.
exactly. If I did have kids, I'd be like, "Y'all need to go to bed by 7 because I need to be able to go to the gym tomorrow." So, but yes, my bedtime is 8:45, and even then, it should really be like 8:30 to get
Mm,
my 7.5 hours of sleep according to Apple. You know how they have the
mhm, yep, yep.
sleep, you can concentrate and focus on it, but 8:45 is good because by the time I get home from work, it's like 7:30, 7:40. I just have dinner, take a shower, and pretty much, like, repeat the process.
That's definitely builds your discipline because it helps, that discipline helps in all many aspects of life, right?
Yeah.
Um, Being consistent, right? I think that's one thing that Pace Morby always tells us, just show up, be consistent, take action. Um, and sometimes it's hard, right? Because you may not see traction and it's easily get discouraged. It's the same thing like when you're starting to go to the gym, right? Or you start doing something, right? Your body starts aching and it's like, oh my God, do I really want to go back and put it through torture again?
Yeah, no, it's true. But, once you get consistent, you actually don't wanna stop, and the reason I
Mm,
say that is even when I go on vacation, I usually don't go to the gym. That's something, like, I just didn't incorporate because 'cause I'm like, I don't wanna base everything, like, gym, 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 gym. Like, I wanna have the balance
hmm
of, okay, if I walk 10,000 steps during vacation a day, it's something, right?
You're
Better
still
than that.
exercising. You're
You're
still
still, yeah,
moving your
you're still
body. Yeah.
walking. And so I looked at it like, okay, but when I returned back from that week of vacation, I'm like hurting all over again. I'm like, now I remember why you should never quit the gym. It's just like one of
Yeah.
those things. Dang it. Yeah. So, but yeah, I like to have that balance. I don't want to feel like that person. Like I have to do the gym every single day, 365 days of the year. No, I actually want to just be balanced out as well too.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Brenda, I'm super grateful again for you taking the time. We had a great conversation. I love to talk about PML, that story you shared. Now you doing transactional lending. That's amazing. And you're disciplined, much respect for that. Super proud of you. You inspire me to get better
Oh,
on that because I know I gotta, we all have our little hiccups here and there, but when you see
definitely.
people posting at like at 4 a.m. You're like, oh, I need to do it. I need to do it. You need to do it.
Yeah. And what's so funny is that I appreciate you because I feel like you're really crushing in the PML space as well too. It's just a
Well,
different
thank you.
avenue, right? So
Yeah.
the avenue that you're using, it's 100% safe and it's less riskier, but also your clientele is happy too. So
Yeah. It's a
it's
win
it's
all
nice.
around,
It's a win-win. It's a win-win all around. So
Yeah.
definitely
It's about
gonna,
networking relationships. So that's one thing, you mentioned it earlier, and that's so true. The more people you meet, more avenues, more opportunities open up. So,
no,
Brenda,
absolutely.
any advice, tips for newcomers or people that would want to connect with you? Where can they reach you at?
Always on Instagram at Brenda Builds Wealth. Definitely send me a message. If you have a PML deal, if you have some EMDs, double closes, send them to me. And yeah, we'll see.
Let's go. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I know we
absolutely.
connected because we were both from the healthcare space.
That's right.
And I know we didn't touch on that, but it's pretty cool. There's a lot of healthcare professionals out there that don't know what to do with their money, right? Or like exploring the idea of getting into real estate. So, um, it's pretty awesome. So
Yeah,
just
no,
yeah,
it's
just
great.
definitely reach out to Brenda. Brenda, it's Brenda Builds Wealth, right? In Instagram.
Yes, Brenda Builds Wealth. Yeah, on Instagram.
Awesome. I'll
Absolutely.
put it in the notes, comments below, guys. Give her a big follow. Thank you, Brenda, again. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I
And
appreciate
let's
you.
see when you come back to Atlanta, or I go up to Texas one of these days.
Yeah, that'd be great. Foodie City all the way.
Let's go.